Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome, welcome. We got some things to talk about today, so we're going to just jump into it. However, if anybody does have something from the weekend they'd like to share, I can't break with tradition. I got to give you an opportunity. So if not, that is fine because we got 30 minutes and it's going to go by really fast today. So we're going to just jump right into um, high school news. How about that? Matt, you want to just take us away here with what's going on with our high school program? What do we need to know?
Yeah. Happy to take us away. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to just drop in and share some updates about where we're at with our high school program. As you know, there's been changes that we're enduring and moving towards for next school year. So I felt it would be a good time to provide everybody an update and answer any questions. It's been an exciting time because we've been putting a lot of the different pieces of the puzzle together to figure out how to move forward with everything and what it's all going to look like next year. So, um, we were able to create a schedule for our campus classes in Lowell for next year, which is very exciting. We got the schedule for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, offering more cohort classes for students to take advantage of. And we're actively hiring to fill the positions for our teaching roles, for the SAS roles, and for a new instructional assistant position in Bend, which is very exciting to take on the cohort classes on the Bend campus. We've gotten some very promising applicants so far, and the vibe is good. We're moving in the right direction. So I know change with of our staff really downgrading in Bend. So I did want to just offer just a moment to discuss any of that with anybody. But I will say, with a smaller school community does come some pretty cool advantages and opportunities that we really want to lean into, like providing more personalized learning, smaller community, and hopefully some good socialization benefits and well-being, and to really hone in on the future readiness and developing that with students in a more intimate setting over in Bend. So yeah, that's where we're at. Does anybody have any questions or anything I can answer or talk about at all?
Yeah, for those of you that just showed up, this is Matt Shumsky, our high school director, and here to answer any high school questions or concerns that you have. Awesome. Well, Matt, I am excited. I hear that there is going to be this week the curriculum fair happening at the Bend campus. Is there going to be somebody there that could maybe discuss some high school concerns if they did come up this week?
Yeah, for sure. So Jessica Schmoller will be available there, the
Hmm.
assistant high school director, to talk about re-enrollment processes, changes with our diploma requirements, because there's a couple additions to the diploma requirements that will take effect with this year's ninth graders. So she is available, and I'm also available too. If you want to send me an email or schedule a time to meet, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But Jessica will be there in person tomorrow.
Cool. Well, maybe you can put your email in the chat, and if anybody wants to reach out, they certainly can do that. But I really appreciate you showing up, Matt, and being available to answer.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of something. Your educational coaches, or Jessica or me, will be reaching out directly to talk about some re-enrollment uh, processes. Like I had just mentioned, we want to make sure that everybody directly gets the information about re-enrollment from us. So be on the lookout for a phone call from your educational coach or Jessica or me. So yeah, keep a lookout for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
And that does tie into our open enrollment for next year is starting tomorrow, Tuesday. That is 8 a.m. You don't have to do it at 8 a.m. I mean, that's fine. But it does open at 8 a.m. Unless something is not going well. So here's a couple tricks that we've learned from the past, assuming that everything is good on our end. And I'm really hoping that that's going to be true. If you are there early because you're just wanting to check something off the list, and it doesn't seem like it's opening or giving you the ability to enroll for next year, just try refreshing your browser first. And if that doesn't work, then it probably is an issue on our end. I mean, at least give it 8:15, 8:10. We are working, but we are at the mercy of Lowell School District to actually hit that button and make it go live. Linda, any other tips or tricks or corrections that you'd like to make? I'd love to hear it.
The number one trick from the registrar is to not just refresh your browser, but to also clear your cache and cookies, because if you've signed in with a different username or password before, it might still be trying to use those old ones and it'll give you an error message. So clear your cache and cookies, even restart your machine is helpful.
Okay, and that's the worst case scenario. If you don't know anything about clearing your cookies, I know that it can sound weird. If you just go to your settings on your internet, where you would clear your history, your browser history, they will give you the option to do both of those things there. And it just, well, I don't know. It magic is what it is, and sometimes it works. So if you have any questions, though, you can certainly reach out to your parent liaison tomorrow. They are hopefully going to be available to answer any questions. We will see how it goes. If it's going well, they will be available. If it's going very poorly, you might need to try calling again because they will be very, very, very busy. But it won't, because we have tested everything out on our end. As long as the district just pushes that button, boom, everything is good. All right. Any questions about that before we get to our guest speaker today? Any other announcements that we need to make? One thing I wanted to say is that our high school graduation materials need to be in to your EC. Speaking of high school, by, I don't know what date, but sooner than later, we're getting to that time. Matt, do you know when we need those in?
They were due last Friday. So,
okay.
yeah. But so if you haven't gotten them in, yeah, ASAP would be great. And we actually did a really good job this year of getting them in. There's just a few loose ends. So please get those in if you haven't.
Yeah, I doubt that the loose ends are in this meeting, but you never know. So we'll just, if you have a friend, wink, wink, let them know. Let them know. All right, thank you. Well, let me introduce my good friend, Josh. He just delivered a multi-week training, although it sounds like a lot, but it was 20 minutes at a time, to our staff on having crucial conversations. And I thought this would be a great topic to bring to our parent meeting, because it really is applicable not only to staff, but to parents. And so I'll let Josh give you more, but I've known him for a long time, really respect him. And I know that he has spent a lot of years working with teenagers in his professional life. and he's got a lot of experience with some crucial conversations, I'm sure. So here's my good friend, Josh Lucci.
All right. Well, I don't know about you guys, but all I got out of the last 5 minutes was that Ben is handing out cash and cookies. So that's what I'm going with. Crucial conversations. That's what I'm here to talk about today, and kind of some great tools to go along with this. One preface, though, is that I don't want you to take this as a recipe for success. These are great tricks or great tools to use for conversations, but they don't guarantee any sort of turn out one way or another. Conversations are always between two people, two very different people. If you're having a crucial conversation with yourself, come see me over at the mental health clinic, and we can take it from there. But a couple of quick things about me. I have been a lot of things in my life. I've been a pastor. I've been a professional whitewater guide. I've been a firefighter. I've been a carpenter. I've done lots and lots of really cool stuff. And most recently, I started down the journey of becoming a psychotherapist. And so I'm finishing out my master's degree over at Bushnell University. And right now I'm an intern therapist over at the Center for Family Development in downtown Eugene, kind of across from Mick Miniman's down there, if you know the area. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I really love it. I've done trainings for about the last 15 years in lots of different settings. I have worked with preschool teachers with behavior issues in their classroom. I've worked with high school kids. I love working with teenagers, and I love working with the parents of teenagers. I do that a lot of that now. I work with family systems therapy. And so this is kind of something I really am passionate about. I really love. And so I'm excited to kind of impart this to you guys. Some of these things I'm going to tailor really towards kind of from a parent perspective, but the tools that we're going through here, they're also going to be really applicable to any relationship that you're in, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a spouse or partner, whether it's a kid that you're working with or one of your own kids. And so all of this really works well. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen real quick. So bear with me while I battle with that, as always is. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. And then here we go. And we're almost there. So this is the first thing that I want to share with you guys here. So how to identify when a conversation is crucial. Okay, so you have every day, just whatever conversations that you have with people. Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're less fun. And then you have what we would call a crucial conversation. If it hits like 2 of the 3 of these triangles, I think it would be safe to say it's a crucial conversation. If you are coming up to somebody that has an opposing opinion to what you're doing, man, it can go anything from politics to curriculum. If you're talking with a kid, my kid, it's how to put together a Lego. Okay. My opinion is follow the directions. His opinion is just go for it. So whatever, you can have all kinds of different opposing opinions. The next one is, are there strong emotions involved? Man, if you have a teenager, if you work with them, that's pretty much every conversation, right? So strong emotions, if you're dealing with somebody who's a coworker, this one can really sneak up on you. Sometimes work stuff, we don't recognize that emotions are tied in with it, but oftentimes they are. Okay. And the last one's really important. Is it a high stakes conversation? What's at risk? Okay. If you're, talking to one of your kids, you have relational issues at risk. Okay. Your relationship with your child is at risk. If it's somebody at work, okay, your professional comfort or your professionalism is at risk. Okay. If it's one of those conversations that those stakes are there, then it's a high stakes conversation. One thing to recognize, though, is if it's not a high stakes conversation for you, that doesn't mean it's not a high stakes conversation. Okay. It could be very high stakes for the other person. And so that one's a really easy one to miss. The same thing with the emotions. You may not have strong emotions about what you're talking about right now, but the other person might. Okay. And so this triangle kind of goes both ways with that. So that was kind of the first thing. Identifying if it's a crucial conversation is really a big first step to making sure it's a successful conversation. So this is the kind of the layout for the concept that we're going to go through. Okay. We're going to kind of take these step by step. This comes from a much larger curriculum. There's lots of books that are written around this. But I find this to be super helpful. From a bare bones point of view, as you look through, you have 1 through 10. Okay, 1 through 8. If you're doing really good and you're really prepping, all this should be done before you start the conversation. Okay, most of this, prep work for a conversation that that you're going to have that's going to be high stakes or high emotions or opposing opinion. If you're able to do a lot of these things ahead of time, it's going to go a long ways for setting it up for success. Okay. The first one is just recognizing that it's a crucial conversation, that it's high stakes. Okay. Being able to spot it. If you're able to spot it in the moment, awesome. If you're able to spot it before the moment, even better. If you get blindsided by a crucial conversation, that's where it gets a little tough. Okay. If the other person's coming to you with something and you're like, oh my goodness, I just realized that this is pretty high stakes. I'm getting kind of blindsided. You kind of have to do some backpedaling. Okay. Towards the end of the trainings that we're going to do, we'll kind of come back to that one and give you guys some tips and tricks around how to do that. But first, we got to kind of go through the bare bones of it. Okay. Make sure your emotions are in check on this one. Naming emotions can be really helpful. Okay. If you're in the middle of a conversation that's kind of turned crucial, saying things like, this particular topic is really frustrating for me. Okay. Just saying that it's frustrating for you, that can do a lot of good. Okay. One, clarity is kindness. Being really clear with the other person is going to go a long way. So they're no longer guessing, is this person frustrated or not? Okay. You have just told them, I am frustrated. They're going to say, okay, the person might not necessarily be frustrated at me. They're frustrated with the topic. That's a big one for people like me, people who are highly empathic. Oftentimes will come into a crucial conversation. The other person's emotions are running really high and they're going, oh my gosh, they're really angry at me. Okay. They don't like me. When what it really is that the topic is really difficult. It's really high stakes. Okay. If you're able to keep those emotions and those diagnosis of emotions to the topic, it's going to help a lot with reactionary word choice and things like that. Okay. So that's that first one. The second one that we're going to look at here, I don't really love the title of it, but that's the way it goes, called The Fool's Choice. Essentially, basically saying that there is always a good way to go about a conversation. Okay. It's not a good way to go about the conversation isn't just to stay silent. I don't know if you've ever tried to talk to somebody who stonewalls and they just stay silent. They don't really react. It's not really a conversation. It can be really difficult. Okay. So make sure you're speaking up. Staying silent isn't necessarily a good way to do it. And that don't go into a conversation thinking that it's doomed to fail. Okay. If you go in, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy oftentimes. Go into a conversation saying, there's always a good way to do this. There's always a way that I could bring this up that's going to be successful. Success doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't a crucial conversation. It doesn't mean that the emotions don't run high or the stakes aren't high. It doesn't necessarily even mean that you're going to come to a conclusion about this conversation right now. Okay. Success is going to look a little different for everybody. When I go into a difficult conversation with somebody, success looks like for me that we're able to maintain communication. That's it. Okay. My expectations are pretty low. If we're able to continue to talk to each other back and forth, we don't have to agree. We don't have to come to any sort of conclusion about things. We just have to maintain the fact that we're still both at the table. Okay, and that to me, that's very successful. Everybody's going to have a different version of that. Okay, but understand that no conversation is ever doomed. Sometimes it does feel that way. Okay, I have had conversations, especially with teenagers. I have worked with teenagers that have been in Cerebu and in detention and things like that, where it just seems like everybody that talks to them about whatever's going on in their head, that conversation is doomed to not be a good conversation. In those situations, I reframe what success looks like. Success to me might be that they only threw 3 things that day instead of 5. That's a successful day. Okay. That I was able to bring that topic of conversation up and they only threw a couple of things at my head instead of a whole bunch of things. And so reframing what success looks like can be often really important too. Okay. This third one that we're going to hit, I think we'll do maybe one more after this. So dialogue. Okay, this is really important. True dialogue, it's not about venting your emotions. There's a time and a place for venting. Okay, and that can be a really good thing to do. It can be really healthy, but you got to own it. You got to call it out and say, hey, you know what? I just need to vent for a second. Okay. Or even in the middle of the conversation, if you're like, you know what, this turned from a conversation that is constructive into just event session for me. If you stop and say, hey, you know what, I realize we're not getting anywhere with this, but are you okay with me just venting about this for a second? Kind of asking permission in the midst of things. That can go a long ways too. Okay. But dialogue, the back and forth of open ideas is different than venting. Okay. Dialogue really comes from the idea of expressing what's going on, even the really uncomfortable things, but the back and forth, being curious and open about where the other person is also coming from. Not just wanting to tell your story, but asking for their story as well. And then listening, like truly listening. If you find yourself making a mental list of all the things that they said incorrectly or the things that you need to address that they just said, then you're not actually listening. You are coming from a place of reaction and defense, and it's not really dialogue. Okay, so keep a real sharp brain on where your mind is while somebody is having dialogue with you. Okay, the last one that we're going to address today, and we'll leave the other ones for the next training, is called play the game, but don't be played. Okay, in the best dialogue, stay calm and articulate, not just silent or emotionally reactive. This one's tricky. The idea here is that every word that you say or every phrase that you say needs to be intentional. Okay, with what intention are you saying what you're about to say? Is it with intention to hurt? Okay, that can be a very real intention in a conversation. Okay, I really want to hurt this person with what I say. Or is your intention, hey, you know what I really want is to find somewhere that we agree on this particular thing. I don't actually want to hurt the person, but I do want to find a place of commonality with them. That could change the way that you phrase it. Okay. Stay calm, be articulate, be curious. And that can be really important. And that will lead into what we start with next time, called Start with the Heart. And that's my very, very favorite one. It's all about really asking yourself, what do I want out of this conversation? If you begin the process of preparing for this conversation by asking yourself, what is it that I really want here? That's going to avoid a lot of things, a lot of confusion, even confusion with your own mind. I've oftentimes had difficult conversations with people where I'm pretty convinced that they're not really sure what they want out of this. I'm certain that you guys have had similar conversations too, where you're kind of scratching your head. You're trying really hard to follow what the person is trying to communicate, but it's really unclear. And chances are it's because it's unclear for them as well. So when you're looking at having one of these conversations, that's going to be really important. And starting with the heart takes into account all the other things that we talked about with this. So give me a second to stop sharing my screen. And all right, we'll go back here. So as we pause here for just a second, I wanted to open it up before we end for any questions about what we've gone through so far. What is the crucial conversation? How to sniff it out when it's coming? Anything that comes up for you guys?
Yeah, I had one question along those lines. So especially when it comes to kids and things, you may be just having an ordinary conversation, no big deal. But then how to recognize when it is becoming a crucial conversation, maybe because the other person is really struggling, especially with like not just teenagers, but even younger kids, where it's like, yeah, it's not a big deal at all. I don't know. Is there
Yeah.
a method to
I
figure
hear
this
you.
out?
I do. No, I had a thing with my son is 9 years old. He just turned 9. He loves Legos, and he lost One of the pieces, it was apparently a very crucial piece in the Lego world that was like a one of, I don't know, one of a kind, whatever. For me, it was just a freaking Lego. And like I could probably take a Lego out to my shop and run it through the bandsaw and recreate whatever Lego it was that he had. But to him, it was absolutely the end of the world. To me, in my world, this was not a crucial conversation. This was more about me being slightly annoyed that he was losing his animal crackers over a Lego. Okay. In his world, this was very crucial. In his world, what he was experiencing was really high stakes. It was in his world. In my world, it was not. In his world, it very much was. His emotions were running very, very high. And what really was at stake, what really caused me to flip the switch into crucial conversations, was I realized that at this moment, what was really at stake for me was my relationship with my son. In the bigger picture, I want him to be able to feel heard and be able to come to me with what seems to be very small, trivial things, and how I react with the trivial things will set up for future things with the bigger, more important things. And once I started to realize that, I kicked back over into, okay, I need to take this seriously. I need to understand where he's coming from. It doesn't mean that I need to allow bad behavior. Doesn't mean that I need to allow him to pitch a fit. I can coach him through this as to what the appropriate reaction to misplacing a Lego is. That's fine. But realizing, for me, it was the emotion that he was showing. He was just really tons of anxiety around it. And for me, what really threw it into perspective for me was how much I was annoyed by it. It was like, okay, this is super annoying. It's almost bedtime. I really can't believe we're having this conversation right now. And that was the opposing opinion piece that really completed that trifecta. For God's honest truth, I don't always nail this one. Okay, there have been plenty of times when I have bulldozed my way through what should have been a crucial conversation with my kid. And because he's young enough and not a teenager yet, I can go ahead and do that and still be Captain Daddy at the end of the day, right? The teenager, not so much. The lengthy consequences of bulldozing your way through a conversation with a teenager are a little bit higher. But yeah, so that it's a great example of seeing something in your kid that doesn't seem so crucial, but to them it's really a game changer.
Really good. Any other comments, questions? We are going to have Josh back next week to continue. All right, well, we'll think about it, Josh, and we will carry on the conversation next week. I really appreciate you being here.
Sounds good.
Wonderful. All right. I just got word from Lowell School District that for reasons that I don't need to get into, open enrollment is not going to happen tomorrow at 8 a.m. most likely. So you heard it here first. So it's one thing we're going to try to communicate with as many people as we can. We're still trying to figure it out here at the end of the day, but obviously that's a pretty big blow since we have communicated and done everything on our end. But it is what it is. So it looks like maybe tomorrow afternoon at 3 is the earliest that we would be looking at. So 3 p.m. tomorrow. And if that changes, we will certainly let you know. So close. But hey, now we know how to at least start this conversation. Didn't get the rest of the training, so we'll see how that goes. But I'll jump into it. I'm sorry. That's all I can say at this point with the limited information that I have. But I would expect to not wake up early at all. 3 p.m. tomorrow will be earliest that we would have this up and running. So, all right. Well, on that positive note, I will leave you here unless there are any questions, comments, or